A new Deltarune newsletter has just been released. Toby Fox and crew have just unveiled the summer 2026 Deltarune newsletter. My name is Elliot Online, and today I'm going to be reading you the newsletter and also analyzing some parts of it. The newsletter opens with the text, "It's summer. Can summer be over yet?" And we have the Deltarune dads enjoying a nice summer barbecue. This is also the first ever depiction of UTDR characters drinking beer and Wise Caddy's dad barbecuing one single burger patty. Also, with how important these two's relationship was to Chapter 5, like Flowey definitely represents Rudy when he was at college. Also, speaking of Chapter 5, it released, and this is what this newsletter is primarily about. I'd say half and half. Around a month ago, Deltarune Chapter 5 released. Did you notice? I'm pleased with the response to Chapter 5. Many friends told me that they loved it, and some people even cried a bit. He's speaking about me, by the way. Everyone's experience may vary, but if the game resonated deeply with a few players, I feel confident I'm moving in the right direction. Now that it's been a bit, I have a lot of info and concept art about Chapter 5 to share, so please click here to check it out. Warning, Chapter 5 spoilers within. I like seeing Toby Fox address how much this chapter affected people emotionally, because honestly, there are so many moments near the end that are tear-inducing for me. The Asgore scene and especially the Susie scene at the very end with that beautiful piano music by Trevor Allen Gomes really got to me. I'm going to skip the concert art for now and read the rest of the newsletter. If you want to look at that first though, look at the chapters in this video / the description. For now, let's cover what's next after Deltarune Chapter 5. Oh, and also the cacao the Santa hat. I wonder where next chapter's Dark World will take place, Mr. Toby Fox. Chapter 5 was a really fun chapter, and with that last big burst of craziness out of the way, I'm sure everybody's eager for Deltarune to start directly tackling the main mysteries of the game. Me too. With Chapter 5, we completed the last of the necessary setup for Chapter 6 and 7. From Chapter 6 onward, there are no more wacky, silly adventures, and you will begin to see the results of the setup that has been made so far. Chapter 6 is a shorter, straightforward chapter that focuses on one aspect of the story. Because of that, many things are still not touched on here. In fact, it may surprise you what was missing, but one thing will be clarified whether you're ready or not. Some of you may say, wait, you need to make the chapters longer, not shorter. That's an extremely reasonable concern, but by the end of Chapter 7, I'm 100% sure you'll understand why I feel confident about the way I'm telling the story. Don't worry about the pacing until it's over. I believe we will be able to release Chapter 6 in 2027. Chapter 6 would be released by itself in case there's any question about that. Recently, I finished writing a few more sequences toward the last third of Chapter 6 and rearranging the rooms to fit the new structure. Once we make these adjustments and tie everything together, we will be able to play a rough draft of the chapter from beginning to end, barring any major restructuring. The main things that will continue to need development time are the boss of the chapter and polishing cutscenes. There is a lot to say here. I feel all the complaints about not having much big reveals happening in Deltarune, which I covered in this video, was enough for Toby Fox to really directly address it in this newsletter. I honestly kinda wish he didn't, but since so many fans were so antsy and finicky about it, he decided to just say right away that, hey, something big is being revealed to y'all. My personal guess is definitely what happened to Des, because by answering that one question, we received the answer to so many other questions in the game. The night, friend, the nature of Dark Worlds, all of these are really predicated towards what happened to Des during the original disappearance and whatever happened to her, so naturally, I assume the one big reveal will be Des and this chapter will take place in the Holiday House, which has been a pretty popular theory. Also, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like the line, "Don't worry about the pacing till this chapter is over," because like, I'm playing the games as they release, have been playing them since I got into them in 2021. Me and everyone else playing want there to be good pacing. Some people have criticized the pacing, but again, as I covered in my video, I really do believe the pacing of the games has been pretty good so far, but this statement kind of worries me, but I still really believe and trust in Toby Fox. And also, I'm really curious if this Chapter 6, being shorter, will be like Chapter 1, which by the way, people dog on it all the time for being the first chapter, but it's a legitimately amazing first chapter that sets up the game so well, while still primarily focusing on one self-contained story with Susie, Ralsei, and Lancer. It's a really small cast, but it's really well utilized. If Chapter 6 is like Chapter 1, where it's able to fully utilize that shorter time frame to make as good of a story as it can, I'll be incredibly happy. I can't wait for it to release next year. Oh, and by the way, we have like a year to do speculation and theories. Toby Fox says, "Personally, I really don't read or watch theories. That's because I already know what my game is. However, I think it's amazing that people think about the game so much. It's not an exaggeration to say that thinking about this game can be just as much of the experience as playing it is. Anyone who keeps thinking about it, like I have, gets my highest blessing. So imagining what could happen and trying to think about the meaning of the game is very cool." However, I do think it's important to mention, sometimes you don't have all the information, or I had a different expectation about how certain info would be interpreted or combined. Anyway, while I think it's good to keep an open mind as to what will ultimately happen, I want to say that you guys should keep having as much fun as you can. The speculative innovative art, stories, and theories that you come up with while the game is still ongoing will forever be special, because this is the only time such things can ever be created. All of you are creating a time capsule unique to the single fleeting moment in time, and I think that's something to be incredibly proud of. Isn't it great that you're here right now playing this thing as it comes out? I completely agree with Toby Fox on all of these takes. I don't mean to keep mentioning it, this will be the last time, but I swear it's so crazy he said all of this so recently after my video talking about this topic as well. I talk about how people take theory crafting way too seriously or unseriously sometimes, treat it like it's stupid or treat it like they're right about something and fight everyone else who is wrong about it, when like theory crafting and the community surrounding it is as valuable to some, experience-wise, as the game itself. But still, keep your expectations and interpretations in check, because Toby Fox is only human and this is his human story. Still, have fun. This is the only time we can do this. The you are right now matters a whole bunch. Anyway, after those two bombshells of newsletter sections, here are a bunch of fun facts Toby Fox decided to include that I thought were pretty cool. What's Jarona? When I was younger, my older sibling would say stupid anime-style made-up move names and then pretend to attack me. One was, "It's my Jarona." A couple other phrases are also references like that, including the unused voice clip, "Bling go Blizzard." My sibling encouraged me to add, "It's my hummingbird" as another quote to the game, but I haven't done that yet. Will I ever? What's Kikky? Kikky is my cat that won't shut up. She gets incredibly noisy every second you don't play with her. She watched her room on TV and didn't understand it was her. She's like if a cat's brain was put into a cat's body. The song in the room is the song that I sing to her every day because I love her. It's not fan service for you, but it's a Kikky service for her, even though she doesn't like it. She's bothering me right now. Aww. New merch? Fangamer has released new merchandise for Chapter 5. More items are planned, as well as some items for previous chapters too, like a queen plush or something. By the way, I told Fangamer not to expect to make too much merchandise for Chapter 6 and 7. This is not sponsored, YouTube. Also, that last statement is very, very interesting. Anything else? I desire and enjoy the corn. Happy summer and enjoy the current. What the f? I can't speak. Happy summer and enjoy the corn. Now that we're done mostly talking about the future of Deltarune, let's talk about the now of Deltarune and look at the Chapter 5 Thoughts section. Chapter 5 Thoughts, featuring Temmie art from 2019, lol. Let's talk about Chapter 5. Concept and gameplay. Before its release, I described Chapter 5 as a fun chapter. Hopefully everyone understands what I meant by that, which is that it is fun. Anyway, there aren't any more chapters where we focus on goofy, attention-hungry Darkner characters with the potential to win weird popularity contests, but thinking about the structure of the story, I think it was the perfect spot to do it one more time. Even though it's only been 4 chapters since Chapter 1, I wanted Chapter 5 to feel like a mix of nostalgic fun mixed with new, unforeseen concepts. Music from Chapter 1 of Deltarune, characters that reference concepts from Undertale, etc. As for the new elements, this time we added a platforming system where you can jump around, attack, and act. Development started in October 2021 with on and off programming by Undyne, creator of games such as Tree Bashers. Eventually, towards the end of Chapter 4, other members of the team were then able to take Undyne's prototype and develop it further. Undyne's early platforming examples with his own temporary enemies. As usual, we created tons and tons of prototypes. There were a few design challenges with using the platforming system. I feel quite happy about its implementation in the final game, but here are some things we had to be concerned about. We prototyped the platforming enemy for each flower color, but not all were used. This is an RPG game with a focus on character interaction. If the game turns completely into an action platformer, it carries the risk of making the player feel like, why am I playing a shit knockoff of Hollow Knight, instead of feeling like they are playing Deltarune. In order to inject some unique character-based elements to the gameplay, the platforming axe system was developed in October 2024. A large amount of acts were considered for each character, but ultimately we have found it most intuitive to just have hanging with Ralsei and Rude Buster with Susie. Another important Deltarunism was adding lots of stupid optional dialogue for doing different things in the platforming mode, as well as having a couple RPG encounters accessible during that mode. This kept the mood from drifting too far from the main game. Another thing we had to keep in mind was that this could be somebody's first experience playing a platforming game, a terrifying thought, but technically possible. Nothing in the game has demanded any platforming skills before this, so we kept the actual jumping challenges rather simple. On the other hand, it was way too fun to make difficult challenges, so we tried to include a couple of those in optional areas. I hope you enjoyed them. We prototyped various puzzle concepts where you had to swap between both gameplay styles, but most of them ended up a little too clunky and hard to understand. Besides the platforming, another general challenge was writing a chapter that introduces 8 different characters to the main story without destroying the pacing. However, putting aside how good an idea that is in the first place, I feel like I managed to pull this off fairly well, showing off all of the individual qualities of the different flowers without dragging the story down. Among my friends, everybody had a different favorite flower, and every flower was someone's favorite, so that's all I can hope for. GG art from 2020, lol. So, I don't have much to comment on this. I don't know, I don't know much about game design, and I've played platformers before. Like, I've played every Mario game, I think. I've played Celeste before, Super Monkey Ball. I don't know, I've played platformers before, so like, the game section stuff was really fun. I'm sure people in the comments who know more about game designs can comment on how great it was and how specific this was, but yeah, no, it was really great. Oh, and speaking of the 8 greatly new introduced characters, let's talk about characters, starting with Flowey, who, as we know very well, constantly carries a jacket over his shoulder he never wears. 10 years ago, everyone was misspelling Flowey as Flowery, and it was driving me crazy, so I thought, wouldn't it be funny if there was another Golden Flower character actually named Flowery, then everyone can misspell his name as Flowey too? The Golden Flower, Gold, was able to become his own Mary Sue character in the form of Flowey. He's trying to be perfect, but he doesn't know anything about what it's like to really live. His interpretation of the ideal man is totally alien and over the top. He looks like a generic anime guy and is far taller than a normal human. It's probable he chose his own theme song and plays it himself somehow, which, by the way, is basically a crappy, misremembered version of only 8 seconds of the Full House theme song, and he must think this is awesome. You can think of the other flower characters in a similar fashion. Their designs may be strange, but that's because they had to decide who they wanted to be for themselves. I wonder what inspired each of their dreams. It's not really important to be honest, but it's fun to think about. Hopefully none of this comes across as new information. I'm simply pointing out what was in the game. By the way, here's some concept art from Tuko Itabe of Studio Chara for the animation. Her early concept art for the animation determined Flowey's final outfit. He has different appearances in different situations. I like when characters have an inconsistent design like this, especially for a character like him. Maybe the inconsistency is his fault. Other flowers. Here's some concept art of the other flowers. Aqua. I didn't have any trouble drawing her. She's obviously inspired by Toho. By the way, the other day I talked to someone and they didn't know what Toho was, so I was like, bad apple? And they were like, huh? I thought that was a Hatsune Miku thing. That's not even sung by Hatsune Miku. Seth. The character Seth is inspired by the character named Seth from Illusion of Gaia. They are both purple and wear glasses, but they don't have any other similarities beyond that. Originally, Seth's first concept had white hair and skin that was a bit more lavender in tone, but when I showed it to my friends, they said, that's just, you know, from Steven Universe, so I changed it. Green. Green's appearance is inspired by the art style of my friend Splendidland, who designed Hacker, Ambulance, and a couple of other great guys. She didn't even know about this character until the game came out though. Orange. It was hard to express the joy of her expression in such a small sprite. Look at her. Anyway, it was important to have one of the characters be a mouse to make it absurdly obvious how distorted their idea of humanity is. This is like the 3rd spelling/grammar mistake in this newsletter, which is great. Yellow. He had 2 designs. In the earlier one from October 2016, he had more of a beard and was a cool collected guy. Then I redrew him later in January 2020. He takes some inspiration from Woody from Toy Story. He was foreshadowed a bit in chapter 3 with some bath curtains. I think that's kind of the full extent of the intentional cowboy foreshadowing I've done in my life. Blue. In the game he has a different hairstyle during his face sprite. I thought it would be fun to provide multiple possibilities for what he looks like. So again, it's wild how iconic and memorable and recognizable and thematic and good all of these different flower characters are. They're so likable and so different in their own way, and like most people who played have at least one character that they really love, and I love that. Other enemy designs? I had 2 guest artists on this chapter to design enemies. Nelnal actually designed 4 enemies for this chapter. Shino Beetle, Terracotta, the Pot Archer, and the Mantis Dancer. Ultimately only 2 of them were used, in chapter 5 anyway. Hitoshi Ariga. Hitoshi Ariga is a Japanese artist who's most well known for drawing the manga Rockman Megamix and designing a number of Pokemon, including the recently beloved Sneasler, Fluttermane, and Augerpon. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. However, did you know that he also drew the character sprites for many classic games, including Illusion of Gaia? Anyway, he drew a bit of a fox character, and then I made some modifications to it for the game. By the way, he and his family are immensely awesome and kind people. I love the concept art of this wooden Netsuki. It looks so cool. Also, shout out to Mantis Dancer for being one of the best looking NPCs in the whole game. I love how this character design looks. Guest musicians? Many people helped out with the music this time also. Garden of Hopes and Dreams. Carlos Ian. Hard to believe it, this guy was a kid when he made his first Undertale jazz album, which is fire by the way. I'm super glad to be able to feature him in the game. Rakuuchi Buster. Rakuuchi. I originally featured his music in an earlier trailer for Deltarune, but as long as we were featuring a fancy version of Fields of Hopes and Dreams, I wanted to make the battle theme fancy too. Cutie Mew Mew Magic, Camellia. For this song I arranged a demo of the first dozen seconds and sent that alongside a few minutes of me playing the piano and singing. I also provided a text description of each part. Camellia did all the actual work beyond that, lol. Anyway, the chiptune demo I gave him was originally just the first 8 seconds of this plus the melody, but I added some more just now to make it worth listening to. Thanks. Flower Man, Camellia. I actually tried to create the song by myself multiple times and even tried multiple times to collaborate with different musicians to try to do a live version with vocals, but nothing turned out right with the samples I was using, so I ended up begging Camellia to arrange it. Here's the earliest piano outline. I think I'm in love / Deltarune logo, Itoki Hana. I made an outline of this song, she arranged it, then I mixed it back together with my own instruments. Also for the logo, it was inspired by the Sailor Moon R eye catch. Chapter 5 may be the best soundtrack in all of Deltarune, cause wow, there are so many good consistent songs and no songs feel like filler tracks or boring, especially like chapter 2 and chapter 3 had that issue I felt, and like this and chapter 4 are just in major competition for being both the best chapters for me and being the best soundtrack for each chapter for me. Guest artist? Also, the creator of Fields of Mystria, Claire, drew Pink's talking sprites and basic overworld sprites for chapter 5. She is a great friend that encouraged me immensely to complete Undertale, so I'm super happy I got to work with her. Okay, thanks. Concept art from Matt Cummings, Eiffel art. And that is the Deltarune 2026 summer newsletter. Do I have any thoughts beyond this? Yes, but there's so much. So much was revealed in this newsletter, and I'm really curious what direction this fandom will take, and I'm pretty sure with this newsletter, nothing else was updated. As of the making of this video, 4 new Deltarune sites related to the Spamton sweepstakes website ARG have been found / updated. The first is deltarune.com / 7b, which is labeled as progress. We see, from most complete to least complete, a map, film clapboard, a weapon, and pixel alien. Looking at the title and label, this seems to be progress on how much progress chapter site 7b, which has been theorized as the exclusive Weirdroot side, have made. Highlighting the bottom page has the statement same time as 7. I am honestly not sure what this means yet, like 7b's events will occur at the same time as something else, like 7a, or like chapter 7 and 7b will release at the same time, but I'm not sure. The next site is deltarune.com / chapter 5, which was a website foreshadowing how prominent the Weirdroot or Weirdroot related elements like the Sword Root was to that chapter. Scrolling down like you're going down to the depths, you see a gigantic 7B, the largest, most prominent Weirdroot we have seen yet. I can't even begin to describe how horrifying and shocking this was seeing this for the first time. We are about to get an entire chapter dedicated to the Weirdroot. The last 2 sites found as of right now are deltarune.com / assets / audio / m.mp3 and deltarune.com / assets / audio e.mp3, which just spell out me. Here are the 2 audio files played side by side. Weird. This is all the currently found sites we have. There may be more, but whatever happens next, I think we're gonna see something change. Something actually change.